Welcome, everyone. My name is Christian Murray. I'm excited to welcome you to our esports locker room chat. Have a really illustrious panel with us today, people from all walks of life. So excited for our conversation that we're going to have with your high school students. Before we introduce our panelists, I want to share some important information regarding how this will work. All right, so our audience, unfortunately, we can't see you, but you're more than welcome to include your questions in the Q&A, and every 7 to 10 minutes or so, I will kick that to Zach or Kevin, and they will ask their questions for you. So please be involved and ask really good questions because we want to hear from you guys. But I also want to remind you guys that the Career Exploration Pass program, that allows you guys to win prizes and money for completing assignments. So stay tuned for that and keep it rolling. But now we're actually live. So I want to welcome everyone: Brandon, Seth, Rashad, Kevin, Zach, and last but not least, Danny. So we're going to actually jump right into our conversation. So we can just jump right into, we'll start with a career path, how you got to where you are, and just a quick little introduction of yourself. So starting with you, Brandon, since you were the last to hop on with us, fresh legs.
Yeah, no problem. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good day going so far. Glad to be a part of this Sports Biz Camps opportunity and hopefully share a little bit about myself today. I'm a faculty member, so I'm a professor at Ohio University. We are one of actually we're the oldest in the first sports management program in terms of getting a master's degree in the world. So we take a lot of pride in that. And we've got Bobcats all over the world in sports and in esports as well. I actually started a class on the business of esports while at Ohio University, and that is now part of our esports certificate, which if you get a degree from Ohio University, any student can sign up and take my class and a couple other classes and leave with an esports certificate. It will help you navigate your way into a career in esports. I worked in college athletics for a long time, and that's how I got started teaching sports, and now I do it full time because I loved it so much. And I play a lot of video games too.
Absolutely. That was going to be my next question. Are you a gamer yourself, or?
Not as much since I had kids. I'm a proud parent of 4 children now. My son, the one son that I have, he's a big gamer, so he plays most of the video games in the house. But when I do play, I play a lot of MLB The Show on PS4.
Gosh, so Rashad, we'll hop to you next.
Hello, you guys. My name is Rashad. I was actually one of Professor Wright's first students in the esports class. I graduated in 2019, so I've only been out a little bit more for over a year. I worked for the Milwaukee Bucks in Pfizer Forum in the arena show department. But thanks to that esports class, I've stayed curious about the esports world, especially with our team. So hopefully can provide you guys a lot of perspective on what's going on in the mind of a business about that. And also, I earned an A in Professor Wright's class by beating him by 40 in 2K. So it is a fun class to take.
Oh, you didn't, y'all don't do the 21 skunk rule?
He wouldn't give in.
Oh, yeah. You a hard worker. You determined. I like it. Hopping to you, Danny.
Okay, so pretty quickly, I started out of college in esports by focusing in on building and fixing consoles. Started to build out tournaments by utilizing the data that I was able to get from fixing individuals' consoles, like how good you were, what type of games you played, how long you played with achievements, and utilize that to be able to market for tournaments on campus. That's 2009. Spent a couple of years in San Francisco, Silicon Valley to work on tech platforms to create that tournament organizing platform to make it easier for individuals to make capital. Ultimately came down to Dallas to build out a space for esports and competition and individuals who want to host their own tournaments. And then ultimately recognized that NBA 2K was something that we wanted to focus in on with all the other different genres that are out there. And then recognized that we were building out leagues before the NBA 2K League was out there. So right now we have about 7 players that have come out of Geek Leagues that are representing several teams of the NBA 2K League right now. And then we focused in on that we have an ecosystem here. So not only the players that are competing in the professional league and we built out our community here. But most importantly, individuals that have engaged with schools, high schools, and middle schools here have come out of pipeline. So therefore, now we've been able to help them get esports jobs at Complexity and so many other entities that are out there right now. And so we just look at ourselves as a total ecosystem. We currently have a 15,000 square foot esports arena that I've turned into almost like a arena, but most importantly, how would you say it, a platform for music studios, podcast rooms, tournament organizer rooms, for individuals for our community to come in and actually learn how to engage with esports. We also have a virtual platform that I created from a proprietary system that allows us to have all of our content that we create inside the facility and push it out there to individuals with this 5-month course that I broke it down from management, marketing, technology, production, and competition to allow students to be able to learn and receive a certificate via our platform. So that's something that we're really focusing on, creating a total ecosystem to allow individuals to really have hands-on skill sets in regards to this industry.
Love it, love it. So last but not least, Seth.
Hey, y'all. So I am a graduate of Ohio University, the Master's in Sports Administration, MBA program. Worked with Brandon a little bit on his class when he launched that. Happy to see that it's a full-blown certificate now. But my path in esports, got lucky that there were some OU grads that worked with ESL Gaming based out of New York City, where I worked as a junior partner manager for a year, did 11 international events in 11 months, decided I want to work on my own projects a little bit, and moved to Chicago. So now I own my own consulting company where I work with Parks and Rec departments to implement esports programming and be a little more inclusive and add some programs that have esports in them.
And quickly, Christian, this is Kevin Carmichael. I am the managing consultant at Prodigy Search, partner of Sports Biz Camps, but also, I guess, my career here in the esports space. Specifically, our firm, we do executive recruiting and headhunting for sports business executive positions with different sports organizations around the country. And in 2017, a few years back, we had launched our esports division, where we have successfully recruited 5 to 6 different positions with esports franchises out there. Yeah, we continue to look forward to growing as the esports space continues to grow as well.
Let me just hop in here. I'm Zach Yakub, and anybody with a question, just put in the Q&A tab, and every few minutes I'll get to one.
All right, perfect. So jumping right into our conversation, I think it is important to realize that because esports is growing, a lot of people really don't know what it is and really trying to figure it out. So I guess, Brandon, we'll start with you. Can you kind of give like a brief introduction of what esports is and like how they can get involved in esports?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually when people think esports, they just think competitive video gaming, and that's pretty much what it is. So if we have like a textbook definition, we just take that competitive video gaming. So you and me, or a bunch of us playing video games together. When I was growing up, before the internet was inside homes, we all would get together and play video games at the same spot. But the internet really allowed individuals either to play against each other on separate platforms in the same room, and then eventually with people all around the world. So we take that model of competitive video gaming, interconnected gaming with others, and we put some kind of administrative hold on it. And basically, if I play against you, or if my team plays against yours, and we put some kind of professional aspect to it, organized by team, organized by game, organized by league, or whatever that may be, we call that conglomerate of games professionally and amateur and collegiate now as it continues to expand in terms of organization. We call that esports. So really, it's a little bit of a segment within the world of video games, but it's a very organized one now and a very popular one by which people can make real money playing video games against other people on the internet. And to the second part of your question, how do you get involved in that? Well, if you want to be an esports athlete, number one, you got to be really, really good at video games. It's much like anything else. If you want to be a college a football player, if you want to be a professional basketball player, you've got to practice from the time that you're very, very young and put in hours per day within your craft. And you have to be very, very good and have the requisite talent in order to do so. So if you don't want to be an esports athlete, if you want to be like me and working in professional sports because you were good enough, but not that good enough to play professionally, then you've got to focus on what kind of skills makes a good esports professional. And quite frankly, coming from the sports world, a lot of good skills in the sports management world, being able to relate to different groups, fostering a welcome kind of environment, and then number one, bringing excitement so that people want to consume and have fun with your product. Those skills are very transferable to the esports world as well, but certainly I hope other people can get into some of the technical aspects that do make it different from live sports or traditional sports.
Perfect. And Danny, I wanted to get your input into that because I do know you're really closely involved with the professional side and building these athletes to go into the industry. So what's your breakdown of how esports is to someone who doesn't know what the industry has to offer? I think you're muted.
Thank you. For us, it's more just providing the space to come and compete and come together with other individuals who have like minds and goals and passions to be pro. When you bring individuals together and they're able to share tips and they're able to engage with each other, then that competition rises. And so we're like that place where we can bring in coaches, individuals who are inspired to be coaches and recruiters. We allow them to come in and help the actual competitors get their branding up, understand the components of the game, and be able to share dialogue and allow that to be a preface to identify skill sets. So therefore now we can be able to go to other entities and say, look at this player. It's so much more of an exposure aspect than a really high end going in and helping the actual players really develop. They are literally coming together and being able to help themselves from a perspective of competition and just being able to have us as a platform to shine light on what they're doing.
Perfect. And Rashad, what would you say is, being that it is a professional league now and it's growing, like I said earlier, and how the fact that it is an emerging industry in sports and entertainment, how do you see, being that you're on the team side in the professional realm, how do you see esports aligning with professional basketball and that going forward into society going forward?
So we're actually kind of in a very interesting position with that as far as we look at it as the rookie on the team. So for us, we have Deer District, which is basically Pfizer Forum, the Milwaukee Bucks, our real estate development, and Bucks Gaming is seen as a new entity of that. So basically we treat them as if they were the Milwaukee Bucks or if they were our arena. We're trying to maximize the revenue and maximize the interest of it. So I see there's a lot of growth just because there's a hunger for this type of content. I mean, we've all played video games. So moving forward in the future, especially with kind of right now with the restrictions and different things of COVID, esports is expected to see a surge, especially with the ones correlated to sports leagues, because you're basically just trying to get creative with what you do in real life, but over this platform of gaming.
Perfect. And Seth, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Brandon said. I see esports as competition plus organization. It can be anything as simple as a friend acting as a matchmaker between, his own group and doing one-on-one in Call of Duty or 2K or whatever, all the way up to an international tournament organizer like ESL that's sending out invites to professional organizations to pit their teams against each other for a cash prize. It can be anything in between those two, as long as there's competition and organization.
Perfect. And Danny, I wanted to go back to you in regards to being, like I said earlier, how it's an emerging industry, and being that you're on the forefront of it starting, being that you're so not old in your career, but in your career. So what would you say, how did you kind of get into the esports space? What was your initial break into esports, and how did you find out that there was an industry in something that you grew up playing and something that you loved growing up? how did you find that balance of when it aligned that it was a career?
Yeah, I just think of Geek Leads as I had an entrepreneur. I was in school for entrepreneurship major, so I just automatically had the thought process of how do you run a business, and I love gaming. So when I think of Geek Leads, I just think of an ecosystem. I think of a developmental platform. And for me, it's instead of selling only a product, it's more of how do you make sure that individual, and especially in the gig economy right now, how do you help someone realize their dreams and their outcomes, or how do you take someone who's really passionate in someone and provide them another opportunity? When we operate in here, the goal is not to stay in here. The goal is to go to a larger platform. The goal is to go to a larger entity and a better professional esports company, and to be able to give all the resources that we possibly can. That's what we're focusing on. So just seeing that there was a huge open gap from individuals who are playing and want to go pro and to actually have the resources. There was, we're speaking on universities right now having programs, but that hasn't always been the case. You're looking at individuals who are expecting to go, from their living room to the grand stage, but there's no infrastructure. So you're starting to see a lot of individuals who are interested in this industry to think of esports as this big bubble. Well, for me looking at this industry, I knew that there was an opportunity to bring everybody together from where our location is and to be able to create that system, that feeder system, and to engage with universities, to engage with local school systems. Like we have 6 ISDs in our district right now. So I actively engage with all of these ISDs and also the universities in this area. So that's a way to create a pipeline for talent. And it's not just that of the competitor. Granted, we've seen the competitor and we've seen the rise, but now we're starting to see the graphic designers. If I want to do a production, especially in times like virtual right now, if we wanted to do a production, we need graphic designers. We need a broadcast technician. We need individual shoutcasters. We need someone who works with the computers to put on that production. So there are so many talents that are needed in order to fulfill a company's goals and bring in revenue. And so I see that as an opportunity to help individuals build their portfolios so they can now say that they've been in esports versus just being on the back end and say, I want to be in esports. Really being able to let them touch and feel is everything. And that's just how I learned when I was in high school, when I was in elementary. And that's how I learned now. I have to go and do it. And now I can be able to grow better and better. And then I can go and feel confident that I can go talk to a CEO or someone that's in industry and say, hey, this is what I've done. And this is not what I hope to do, but this is what I've done, and really be able to secure jobs. And just creating that void of thinking that you can go from, and it happens. It's a small percentage that you can be that ninja and you just pop up and you're now making millions of dollars. But there has to be a pipeline. And it's so cool that middle schools and high schools and colleges are trying to create that platform. For me, it was just before all of this, it was just, well, I see a lot of individuals who are passionate about it. Well, what can I do to create that structure so they can have a better opportunity to go directly pro? But now we're starting to see that ecosystem being built all the way, just like traditional sports. And so for myself and the individuals that, help build this company, it's just how do we be that developmental platform, not only for leagues and competition, but a developmental platform for skill development, for career development and opportunity.
Let me hop in there. I got a question from the chat. This one comes from Elliot, and he wants to know if being a gamer is important to being in the business side of esports. Is it good to know, what type of games, they're playing? I'll hand this one off to Brandon. And Brandon, I also love MLB The Show, so there you go.
Well, I might do a hockey assist here. So I consider myself to be okay at gaming. I'm just all right. In my opinion, no, you don't have to be a great gamer. But I'll kick it up to Seth, actually, because Seth is a guy who is a good gamer and found a career in esports. And he might be able to tell you a little bit from his perspective, being very good at video games. And I'll let him say which game in particular. But I'll do the hockey assist and kick it to him.
I appreciate that, Brandon. Now I get to tell everybody how bad I am at Counter-Strike and Valorant. I would say that it can be helpful in certain paths, right? If you're trying to be a player manager for a professional team, understanding the game and the needs of the players on your team can be incredibly helpful. If you're in a role like Lamar, who just joined on, who's the coach and director of a college program, that can also be incredibly helpful to understand the needs of the players and understand the ecosystem, what tournaments to enter, things like that. If you were in the role that I was in at ESL Gaming with where I was fulfilling partnership agreements and contracts, it's more important to understand broadcast. It's more important to understand how live events work than to be very good at the video games. Again, you just need to be able to understand and bring the relevant skills to that position that you're working in. If you're trying to do production, it can be helpful to understand the game, so you know what angles to be looking for, what moments are going to be important to the game, that sort of thing. So, as I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of, it depends, and it can depend on a lot of different factors.
Perfect. And because you're joining us, and Lamar, I wanted to get your perspective, and you came right in on time, actually. So what does the athletic standpoint look like in esports?
I'm glad I came right on time. My apologies. I could have swore this was at 3, and then I checked my emails at 2. But I'm glad I still was able to make it within a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, so my name is Lamar Daniels. I am the head director, coordinator, coach, whatever it may be, for the esports program at Lourdes University. It is a varsity program within the athletics department here on the university. So just like every other sport, we provide team members scholarships and a chance to compete while getting an education. As far as the athletic standpoint, it really is, and it's difficult for people to kind of translate this or really understand this, but like I said, we're like every other traditional sport. A lot of times when people hear like that it's an esports program at a university, people are like, okay, so do they study esports, right? Or do they study computers or something like that? And I always tell them, no, like it's the same way with the basketball team, where you might have somebody, studying business and physics and psychology. It's the same way here. Most of my team members, I think the largest major among members on my team is business, with some sort of marketing or administration. I have some sport management people, but I also have some criminal justice. I also have some people wanting to do psychology. And it's interesting, you're starting to see a lot of colleges right now start their own esports programs. The first varsity one was back in 2014. There have always been clubs for years at various schools around the country. And then one school was like, why don't we just do this as a scholarship thing? And it really put their name out there because people saw them winning championships, right? And then more and more schools got on board, and you're just now seeing a wave of just more and more schools at it. It's still interesting. Some people are just still shocked by it, but I ultimately see it's going to grow until the point that it's kind of adjacent to athletics is, right? Not every school is going to have it, I don't believe, at the same level of traditional athletics, but it's growing into that space where it's kind of going to be its own separate thing.
Perfect. And being Brandon, hockey assist back to you, being that you are that platform and you're help create that. What word am I looking for? That sustainable
pathway.
Yeah, you're creating that pathway for students and athletes to come and learn about the space. What does that actually look like? Like, how did you guys start the program and get that implemented and roll that forward to creating careers in esports?
Well, quite frankly, it all started with the establishment of varsity programs. So once universities, quite frankly, because I'll just be honest, a lot of universities have administrators that are not from a generation that played video games. So they didn't understand them. They didn't know what they're about. And beyond that, and I think most critically, they did not understand that there was a wealth of, let's say, appetite on campus for students that played video games. They'd come to my class, or they'd come to anybody's class, and as soon as class was over, they'd put their laptops down, take that laptop back to their dorm room, and just play video games and consume. So eventually those students started to organize themselves and make their own individual teams or individual clubs. And those clubs, just like a lacrosse team or a tennis team, eventually grew into varsity programs. And once colleges realized that this could be a door of access for students to come to your university, we obviously want to take advantage of that and put resources in to meeting the demands of students these days. So if you want to, like, for example, at Ohio University or at other places around, but I've got a I'll be honest, I think Ohio, we do it the best. If you want to learn what the business of sports is, you come to a place like Ohio University, and we teach you, certainly, as Seth mentioned, how to organize. Right, how to, or as Lamar mentioned, how to administrate events. Or now that we've got our esports certificate, as Danny mentioned, we also have programs in game design and career paths in IT. So we have a full kind of 360 look at what the esports world should be. And then you have my class, which is very just an intro to business of esports class, where first, we took a look at the esports ecosystem. So we talk about the games themselves, right? If you don't know what if you don't know what League of Legends is, we start there and we show you and let you play League of Legends. And then we move on from there. Okay, if you're League of Legends and now you want to organize into official league, so what does the North American circuit of the League of Legends championship series look like? How do you build an esports team? How do you go out there like Lamar does and find esports talent? And we grow that in my class and grow it and grow it and grow it until you have a full 360 look at what the esports ecosystem is. And then we can bring in some sports management philosophies about branding, about sponsorship, about eventually selling tickets to these events, whether it be online or in person, and really get you immersed in what the business of esports looks like. So for us, if you want to play video games, I certainly encourage that, and I allow a lot of our students within class. But what we really do and what my focus is learning the industry, and then we'll put on an actual esports event. So Rashad got the opportunity to take part in, along with Lamar, in an esports invitational that we hosted with programs from around the state of Ohio. And so each class, I try to let them come up with a project that they want to do where they get real esports experience on their own, taking all the things that we learned in class and then applying it to their own event.
I'll just jump in here. I know there's a question that was asked by Zach Minamir, and he asked how much employment is currently available, or what jobs are out there in the esports industry, and will the industry continue to grow? I'll jump into that quickly, and then if anyone else wants to add to it, just given my involvement on or at least our involvement with Prodigy, and placing individuals in sports entertainment. You definitely see a lot of positions out there in the esports industry, as Brandon just mentioned, right? I mean, there's the player side, but then you also have the business unit. I mean, how each of these organizations are run, and from the technical side to the sales and marketing side to whatever it may be, ticket sales, right? Selling for different events or even operations and putting on these large events. There definitely are opportunities out there, and my opinion, and from where I see the industry, where we all see the industry, I think it is certainly going to continue to grow. You have your traditional sports franchises that are purchasing or kind of tagging on to different esports franchises, right? And I think different leagues are coming out, the different platforms. I know Seth, you mentioned Valorant. I don't know how to say it too well, but a new game that is definitely doing pretty well. I think it's in its beta stage. So yes, plenty of opportunity, I think, out there, but anyone feel free to add to that.
If I can. Okay, perfect. So to answer to the question was the amount of jobs. If you kind of look on Hitmarker right now, I kind of use that as a guide. Right now, you'll see about 16,000 plus. And it's growing. The cool thing about this industry is it's growing on double. So basically next year is expected to double, and the year after that expected to double. When I think about that, it doesn't look like a lot of jobs. But when you think about esports and where it's at right now and the hype that it's getting right now, which is awesome. I can remember like 10 years ago, when you talk to somebody about esports, they don't know what is going on about it. Now, in the last 2 years, everybody, particularly knows. So it's going to actually grow even faster when you think about the job opportunities. When I think about Geek Leagues as a whole, I employ 17 individuals. And that instance right there is like, I feel like, okay, this is how you add more to the job opportunities there. If you had to break down, there's a production element when we're doing virtual production and physical production. There is our GEA perspective, whereas our Geek Leagues Esports Association. So there's individuals putting together our leagues, and you have to have individual program directors to operate those leagues. For our education component, we have to have education program directors and interns to be able to create the storyboards for our curriculum. And then you have the technology piece, building a technology application and a mobile app. I have to have developers and back-end developers, front-end developers to put all this all together. So when you think about it, there's job opportunities in all of those concepts that I just mentioned. But we're still in the space of creation, right? Like there are entities developing all over. So when you think about it, you can be that question that you pose. You can be the creator. You can be that individual that see the need in the industry and go fill that need. Typically, what I would do is I would go to all these events. I would travel all to the EVOs and the combo breakers and just be in the instance of seeing the events going and being able to ask individuals like, what do you find that is a need here? If you're creating a platform, how can I be of assistance? And you'll see where you can create something and then you can then provide jobs from that area. And that's just how, we kind of think, and when it comes down to it's not a lot available, but we have the ability to create jobs. Therefore, 5 years from now, you see a huge increase in job opportunities for individuals who are coming out of these programs and they're looking for those opportunities, because what's the point of going through a course and there's no jobs available? And you're like, why did I go through that? I think there should be a really good emphasis on creating those companies, finding the investors that want to be able to fund these companies so they can grow, in which they can provide more opportunities for individuals to really put that skills to work.
And if I can expand on what Danny was just talking about, having worked in ESL and having a lot of connections in the gaming space, still everybody wears so many hats in every single job in esports right now. I talked to the president of NRG, who's not just pitching, but he's also fulfilling contracts. He's coordinating control production. He's doing all of these different things that wouldn't normally fall under a president's responsibilities. And as they increase revenues, as these companies receive more investment, those positions are going to get created in order to increase efficiency at some of those leadership positions. You don't necessarily want your president or CEO actually doing some of the grunt work or groundwork that's required to fulfill some of these obligations. So as those grow, there's going to be more opportunities open. And even better, there's so many startups in the world of esports that you can create your own company. Just like I did, there's so much opportunity and there's so many different ways that you can go about creating your own business or creating your own position, if you will, because there's so much opportunity.
Perfect. And Rashad, I wanted to get your perspective on being that you were a student who graduated from the OU program, who has an esports program. Like, what are some of the big takeaways that you took into your career that have set you apart and put you ahead in the esports spaces specifically?
As far as I mentioned, as far as esports, I'm still kind of on the outside looking in, so I can relate to some of you high school students. But my main passion was the business of sports, which that esports class in the sports program at Ohio University really allows you not only to kind of read the book, but you get to actually touch the projects. And it's all about what you can learn how to do. So for me, looking at esports from the business perspective was basically the big awakening for everybody was, is there a market for this and can we generate revenue? And then right now in esports, like Seth mentioned, there's a lot of opportunity and there's still a lot of different things that people are trying to figure out about the industry. So figuring out kind of what little part of the industry you're passionate about is the biggest thing. Like, for example, with me, I'm a little bit more on the ticket side right now in arena shows, because when I was a kid, I did a hot 5 tunnel and I was like, whatever this job is, I want to do this and give kids the other opportunities. So if you like gaming and there's a certain aspect of the gaming that you really enjoy, that's where you should pursue it. But I think Ohio University did a great job of starting to create those pathways because, for example, like somebody like Ronnie 2K, he has a degree in economic management. Like, it doesn't correlate to esports, but you had to make your own pathway. People like Danny and Professor Wright and the different universities and Seth that are leaning into creating these things is just only going to provide you students with the actual pathway to get you to esports a little bit more efficiently.
Perfect. I want to, any questions from the chat we have
Yeah, I got a question from the chat. There's an anonymous attendee who seems like he wants a career in esports broadcasting. Kevin just took a stab at it in the chat and answering the question. I'd love if you could elaborate more. He talked about if you need to speak in a certain way.
Yeah, I think, I think in everyone can chime in here. I just kind of took a stab at answering that, but in any broadcast role, right? There's obviously a specific skill to possess. First and foremost, you want to know your audience. You want to know the game, and you want to know the players in the team. You want to know everything that you can about that specific match or game or whatever setting you're in, so that you can just rattle off. And it's obviously it comes in practice. You listen to some of the best broadcasters out there in traditional sports. They've been doing it for a while. They certainly had to start somewhere. And you may mess up a few times, and you got to keep going, right? You got to keep learning. You got to keep on keeping on and doing your best to do that. So I don't think it needs to be a specific voice or tone in your voice. I think it's just more or less being good at what you do. Know as much as you can, study as much as you can, and really know your audience so that you can obviously know when the right time to get your voice at a different level when something good is happening, obviously, and then kind of coming down on other levels. So anyone else jump in as well, but that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
I can chime in a little bit just real quick. As far as when it comes to broadcasting, you just want to make sure that you're getting experience with it. With being a broadcaster, a big thing about it is making sure that you can kind of analyze data quickly, be a studier, be a student of the game as far as knowing the game and knowing the players. And then just being active and making sure that you're practicing every day. It's just like a sport, just like esports. So I'd recommend, if you are really interested, find opportunities, whether it's being an announcer for your current high school or being an announcer for tournaments that people set up. That'll just give you more practice, and then that's actually experience that you can speak to.
I would say that, having worked with a lot of the commentators in the Counter-Strike world, a lot of them found somebody within the sports world that they wanted to emulate. I know Sponge was trying to go after people who commentated, who did more of the analysis in European football or, the English Premier League, things like that. Find somebody you want to emulate and then make their style work for you. That's how you create something unique, and that's how you create your own voice. You don't necessarily need to fit within a specific mold. There are people, Sadakist, also from the Counter-Strike world, has a very unique way of announcing that's probably closer to a color commentator than an analyst specifically. So, there are lots of different ways to make it work. And then just like Rashad said, make sure you practice every day. I know if you're looking at doing Counter-Strike, you can stream the majors on your own Twitch channel from the official stream, and it doesn't have any commentary over it. So you can just practice on an official tournament and make it work for yourself. And just practice and continue to do that as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, and then I'll add 2 things. Identify your brand. Whom are you as an individual, and be able to express that even outside of just the actual shot casting itself. And then the next thing is be a humble student to the point to where you can ask questions and do not be afraid to ask questions. Your grind is going to show out, right? The amount of effort that you put is going to show out. So you need to make sure that you're being able to ask as many questions, engage, put yourself into events. Most startups in esports are cash strapped. This is a perfect opportunity to go and provide your value, because when individuals see your value, they recommend you to someone else, right? They're like, I can only imagine how many times that a shoutcaster has walked through these doors and they're like, hey, I just started, I've been doing it on my own, I've been doing some streams, but I actually want to see what it's like to be in the thick of it. And you get a chance to go and be in there and see like the energy and the adrenaline rush. And if you like that, or if it's too much for you, it's going to show, right? And so then you go and put yourself in that environment again, and then go utilize your network to go to other opportunities that are there, and just use your brand to help yourself be of more value, because the higher productions that you're a part of, the more it's going to be how much you've done, what you've done it, where you've done it, how much caliber it was to get in those positions, right? So you need to be able to say, look, I have a catalog over 100 shoutcasting events that I've done, and this is why I'm fit for that job. And that 100 means how much you put in, how much work you put in. In esports, it's the cool thing about this industry is you can fake it, but you can't really fake it because it's based off of data. If you're good, it's going to show on the leaderboards. And so that's the cool thing is if you can be able to show that you've done X amount of events, that's where your portfolio comes in and you can be able to see yourself get those jobs. And the worst thing in esports is if you just are toxic or you do something crazy to stop yourself from having those opportunities. So if the industry blacklists you, then now you did that on yourself. So the best thing you can is be a humble leader and always be wanting to learn and never think that you know too much.
Absolutely, and building off of that point, talking about a skill that's really helped. I'm not myself a broadcaster. You see me stumble across a couple of times, and a skill that I've developed is just resilience. So while we're on the point of skills, I will start with you, Lamar. What is it like an important skill or mindset that has helped you succeed in your career?
I will say, man, that's a really interesting question. Um, I think, and as cliche as it sounds, having I want to say hard work, but as I'm saying that, I'm thinking more so not even just hard work, but more so being able to buy into something bigger than you. Um, Being someone who was a college athlete myself, there were teams that I was on that had people who were willing to do that, and teams that I've been on that had people who weren't willing to do that. And transitioning into doing my own assistant coaching until I ended up getting the job here, I saw a number of programs that were ran well and a number that weren't ran well. And a lot of that is whether the leadership can get the players to buy into something bigger than them. Because I think hard work is a byproduct of that. So I want to go a little deeper than just saying hard work, right? Coming into the program here at Lords, the first couple of years, they had an amazing team, had one of the best League of Legends teams in the country. So much so that one of their former players is now he works for one of the 10 franchise professional League of Legends teams. This guy was that good. But the program went from like 30 students the first year to about 7 at the end of the second year. And a lot of that was just the direction that was being given by who was in charge before I got the job. And as I was coming in, it kind of helped me relate to some of the issues I've seen throughout college athletics just before. I went to a small college, so I'm used to small college athletics. And when I was in college, my second year, my track program got cut, which is what I went to college for. And a lot of that was because of the direction of the leadership. And so having the skill of knowing how to buy into something bigger than myself really helped me to kind of see, and I got that experience more so directly when, again, I was in college and I was a part of an acrobatics program. And the head coach, so basically it was like competitive cheerleading without the cheerleading. And we used it kind of as a showcase thing for the schools, sort of a ministry thing. We do shows at like different high schools, middle schools, tell kids stay away from drugs, stay away from alcohol. We used to do NBA halftime shows for the Wizards and the Pacers. And our coach would always drill into us that, not in a negative way of like everybody's replaceable, but more so in the way of like, hey, like this is bigger than your individual moves. This is bigger than you looking good. This is bigger than you getting to come and travel with us and perform and do tumbling passes and things like that. Like he always drilled into us that the team and what the team needed was more important than everything else. And that's what that has really helped me in my program here at Lords, is like really changing the culture of what was before, right? A lot of kids were just doing whatever they wanted to do, kind of having that individualistic mindset. And a lot of that is, I won't fault the kids, but they didn't have the best direction. And so coming into this and kind of being like, hey, I understand we have some talent. Like you might be talented in this, you might be good in that, but we're going to be better so much so if we are a entire whole. Right, if we put what is needed for the entire program out of what every individual person needs. So that's making sure you're on practice on time, making sure that you show up, making sure you play outside of practice, making sure you treat everybody with respect. Like when I came in and I established ground rules with the team, the very first rule I said was, we respect everybody. That's everybody within the program, outside the program, on campus, off campus, things like that, right? So making sure that everybody kind of put what the program needs ahead of what they wanted themselves, I think has turned around the program in a lot. And I don't want to be a little biased, but at least my players tell me themselves that they feel like it's a lot better than it was before. And I've established that aspect of we're a family, right? And you want to make sure you take care of your family, and not always just thinking about yourself. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing that has helped me in my career as far as just like a personal aspect.
That's great. I got a question from the chat here is how do you get these teams to find you? What opportunities can you get? I'll hand this to Seth.
Lamar, if you want to jump in at the end, that would be super helpful too, because I know you're in the college space. But I'm going to speak to the path in Counter-Strike and kind of make it a little bit more general as well, and kind of apply it to a few other games. But the first thing you're going to want to do is get to the top rank if there's a competitive mode in the game. If you're playing Counter-Strike or if you're playing League of Legends, if you're not the top rank, there's very little hope of demonstrating the skill that's needed to play at a professional level. You need to be very, very good to be getting paid to do this, just like you need to be very good. You need to be the best, some of the best in the world to play in the NBA or even any, in a European basketball league or something like that. The next thing that you need to do is demonstrate that you can work within a team environment. That's where college comes in, and that's where things like if you're playing Counter-Strike, ESEA, where you can organize with another team and play competitively, whether in weekly tournaments, gaining top rank on their platform and being in one of the best players on a paid platform like ESEA, and also having a good social media presence as well. Having a YouTube channel or even posting clips to Twitter or things like that can be invaluable in demonstrating your skill and getting out there for people to find you. Platforms, I'm going to shout out another Bobcat, Matt Benson with his eFuse platform, where you can show off some of your skills and put yourself out there for people to find you. Platforms like that are invaluable as you try to get picked up. But really you need to find ways to demonstrate your skill and put yourself out there for people to find you. If you're not putting clips up, if you're not competing in tournaments, if you're not, putting yourself in front of people, then they can't find you. So whatever that game is that you want to become a professional at, you need to just practice, get top rank, and put yourself in front of the right people.
Yeah, and I'll add on that on like the collegiate side, right? And it is probably a lot more easier to make it, and this is what for every traditional sport as well, it's a lot easier to make it into the collegiate side than it is like the professional side. As far as the collegiate side of being able to be found, one big benefit, like for all of you who are in high school, maybe some of your high schools have clubs, and if not, joining amateur teams is a really big benefit to that as well. And this goes from anywhere, like you cannot even be like the top ranked person and you can still find amateur teams out there as well to be able to be a part of. If you're looking for places to start, Discord channels, Reddit threads, a lot of Reddit threads lead you to Discord channels. Discord's a really big app in the esports scene. And then how I end up finding people for my team. A lot of it is honestly, it's very, very fragmented. There's a lot of different ways of being able to like find somebody to be able to play for myself. Some of that is purely based off the rank in the game. Some of it is from their high school program. Some of it is from Discord messaging boards where I'm posting saying I'm looking for a specific player. Some of it is from traditional esports, traditional recruiting websites. For example, websites NCSA and BeRecruited.com. I actually used BeRecruited.com when I came out of high school, and basically it's a platform where you go on, you input your information, what games you play, the details that you of your game, like what rank you are, how long you've been playing, X, Y, Z. And then college coaches can find you on those websites as well. So for me, I take a look at the team I have, I see where we need to improve, and I try to find players off of that. And kind of like leading into what somebody asked about like the most popular games. It does vary from professional and from college. And I'm drilling on the college side because we're starting to see more and more college programs grow, right? And I want you guys to be able to be cognizant and aware of the opportunities. But if you look on the pro side, like a lot of the biggest ones are League of Legends, CSGO, Call of Duty, Some Overwatch, some Valorant's growing a little bit. Rocket League is a really big one as well. But then when you look on the college side, and this kind of touches on somebody asked about first-person shooters, or they said third-person shooters. You look on the college side, I don't know if you meant to say first-person or not. Look on the college side, like a lot of those games aren't as big because the number of schools aren't comfortable with the aspect of first-person shooter games in their schools. So like, whereas CS:GO is probably the second largest esport on the professional side, it is nowhere close to being as large on the collegiate side. The collegiate side, a lot of it's dominated League of Legends, Overwatch, Rocket League. Like those are the three main ones that you have. You have a few schools that do Call of Duty, a few schools that do CS:GO, a few schools that are starting to do Valorant. But it's a lot different on the collegiate side, where a lot of them shy away, and usually it's more so the administration that still is trying to understand esports, right, and understand how it really connects to the mental aspect. Also, you meant third person as in Fortnite, so Fortnite's pretty big on both sides as well. One of the ways that some schools, myself included, have been able to pitch Fortnite and get it accepted versus some other games was the aspect of it's not first person, right? Which for some reason people feel like it changes so drastically how it affects you mentally, whether it's first person to third person, and I don't truly believe that at all. But yeah, you're seeing a lot of colleges get Fortnite as well. I would say Fortnite's a little bit more popular than, say, CS:GO and Call of Duty, just a tad bit on the collegiate side. Then I would say Fortnite's still pretty solid on the professional side as well. It's a lot. I would say it might be a little trickier to make it pro in Fortnite, right? Because there's not a team structure to be able to put yourself out there like that. But I would say for those of you interested, it has any solid skill level that might not be like pro, might be out of the reach. I definitely think like collegiate is a route that hopefully more and more people look into, and it's just a scene that's even growing a lot exponentially.
So I love it. Thanks for all you guys' insight. I really appreciate it, and I know the high school students do as well. But closing us out, I want to hear from each and every one of you. So we got 7 minutes, so got to keep it pretty concise. But ending off with some advice for our high school students. If you could go back, knowing what you know now, all the experiences that you have, all the opportunities that you've been presented, if you could go back and tell your high school self one piece of advice, what would you go back and tell yourself? And we'll start with Mr. Danny Martin.
Yeah. Make sure I keep a good connection with my high school teachers. I feel as if like when you go through high school, you just go through just to get out of high school, but you don't leverage any of those relationships. Now in life, I leverage every relationship, whether I'm providing value or whether I'm receiving value. And I try to keep those relationships for a long time. I hope to be alive for a considerable amount of years. And I want to make sure that maybe 10 years from now, I still can go back to the person or any of you on this panel and to be able to ask for advice and support or to provide value in some type of capacity. So looking at it right now is that this is an opportunity to be engaged with everyone and provide value, even if it's not tomorrow. And so I think about it when I think of high school. It's like I don't know anybody that I knew in high school, like outside of my friends that I grew up with, but my teachers, the administrator, the principals, the individuals who can be really impactful. I wish I would have established those relationships with those individuals versus just like, I'm ready to get out of here. I need to go somewhere else in college or go pursue my career. I should have taken more emphasis on making those relationships and sustaining those relationships.
Perfect. And kicking it to you, Rashad.
All right. And I guess my advice would be it's never too early to start and just to always be a good person, even when nobody's watching. For me, starting early is a big thing as far as getting experience, especially if you want to kind of create your own niche with your passion, which I recommend. So I'd say start a LinkedIn. I mean, for my first LinkedIn, I had McDonald's on there. And start doing informational interviews. Like people on this panel, there's a lot of us in the industry. Reach out and just ask questions because you can learn a lot more from somebody else's experience and it saves you a lot of pain on the back end. So I'd say don't be afraid to put yourself out there and always be kind of curious and just always be a good person.
Love it. Kicking it to Youssef.
Expose yourself to as many different experiences as possible. I know when I left for college, I had in my mind that I wanted to do one specific thing, and when that didn't pan out, I didn't know what I wanted to do. If I was still in if I could go back to high school, I would expose myself to different parts of business, production, the various sciences, things like that. Don't just pigeonhole yourself into one thing. Even if you've narrowed it down to an industry and you're sure that you want to work in it, there's always a lot of different paths that you can take within that industry. So make sure you expose yourself to those and have experiences. And it'll also look good on a resume or LinkedIn as you apply to things as well, because those experiences will indicate that you know what you want to do.
Perfect. And kicking it to someone who's actually the one who gets you in those positions, gonna kick it to Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things, I think we all talked about it, right? It's networking, right? And what is networking? I mean, the one-on-one of networking. I mean, it's just staying in touch with those that you know, or just, I think one of the biggest things is, I mean, obviously as high school students, you want to, and then Danny or someone else had mentioned it. I mean, really just kind of put yourself out there and learn as much as you can. Be a sponge and just find mentors out there that can help introduce you to people that are in specific parts of the business. And then I think in the chat, Zach mentioned, I think it was mentioned before, LinkedIn is incredibly helpful in the professional space. On the recruiting side, I'm on LinkedIn hours and hours on the day. We have our own database as well, but create a LinkedIn if you haven't already. Connect with me, connect with, I mean, everyone on this panel, I'm sure would be more than welcome to connect with you and provide insights, but really just be aggressive and we're not scary people. As you can tell, we're nice. We're going to be nice to you. We're going to answer your questions. So what I think you should take advantage of, or what I should have taken advantage of probably when I was in high school, was just networking with as many people as you can and really taking advantage of that.
Speaking to the scary point, I'm not sure if everybody's not scared, because Lamar looks pretty scary down there. So I want to hear from you in regards to some advice for our students.
All right. If you don't mind, there are a couple open questions. If I can just touch on them real quick. I don't know if you have the time for that or not. If that's okay, Christian.
Got about 2 minutes and I
Okay.
gotta close this out. But...
All right, okay. I'll do it fast. Somebody asked, if a game's dying now in popularity, do you switch games or keep playing it? It depends on the reason why you're playing the game. For example, Tim Tatman had a really, really big stream. He started streaming CSGO, then he moved over to Overwatch, then he moved over to Fortnite. Now he's moving over to Call of Duty. Depends on your stream, right? He wants to keep the stream big. At the same time, if it's something you love, then I would say keep playing it. And I think that's something you want to look for. As far as like people asked about like how to stream and stuff, I'm gonna plug this real quick. So I stream Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 9 p.m. I'm actually gonna plug my Twitch in the chat. If you want, like, if you hop in the chat, like this, so that's tonight, right? If you hop in there, say, hey, you came from the panel today, and you want to know, I can show you like the background layout of everything on like how to get involved with streaming, right? Whether it's showing you the OBS, the stream elements, all that stuff. And then to answer real quick, Kyle, is Rainbow Six a good game to stream on? It's up to you. It's all, I always say stream what you love, right? And if you love Rainbow Six, then definitely stream Rainbow Six. And then the last one real quick is as far as what to tell myself, take your time to find your passion. I went to college thinking I wanted to be a lawyer. I realized I hated writing, and I really did not want to be a lawyer anymore. No offense to Brandon. But I then, like, I took an extra year of college just to take the time to figure out what I wanted to do. And I knew I was going to pay a little bit more, but now that I look back on it at the end of the day, like, I think back to myself, I wish I had, like, my freshman, sophomore year, taken a little bit more time to really try to figure out what I love to do. And when you're able to find your passion and find someone who pays you to do your passion, like we all have passion in esports, right? And we have people who pay us to do this, right? That's when you end up finding and getting into a program that you love. And so that's my example. You all are in high school. You have time to figure out what you want to do, even in your first couple of years of college. Don't panic and think you have to find a major right away. You have to find what you want to do right away. Take your time, experience some new things, so you kind of opens your mindset to other things in the world. yeah, so that's I'm actually gonna, here, I got you.
Yeah, I was going to say, drop your email or Twitch login or something into the chat because they're loving you. But no pressure, Brandon. You got to end us off with some high school advice. If you could go back and tell yourself one piece of advice, what would you go back and tell yourself?
I would say don't let anybody tell you that video games won't take you anywhere. I'm from an era growing up playing video games where people would literally say, stop playing so many video games. It's rotting your brain. You're not going to be able to do anything with it. And now I teach a class on the business of esports.
Nice.
If video games, to Lamar's point, if that's your passion, then take advantage. We've got programs now at Ohio and other places around the country where you can literally get a degree in video game design or in esports production. So take advantage of it. If you want to be an esports athlete, keep playing, keep streaming, and keep practicing for sure. But take advantage of the opportunities given your generation.
Well, that concludes our session here. I want to thank you guys again for such the amazing gems you dropped. I should have brought a little satchel to catch all the gems y'all dropped on us. But like I said, I want to thank you guys again. It's been great. I love it. I know these guys are going to find some really inspirational insights in esports, and looking forward to see how it's going to grow. But as a reminder, campers, complete your assignments as part of the Career Exploration Pass program. Consider taking advantage of this because this is an opportunity to win some great prizes that we have in store for you guys. And then last but not least, we're going to conclude this with some goodbyes from everyone. Like I said, I want to thank you guys again. Run a little bit over, and come high school campers, we have a LinkedIn session at 3. So hop in that, guys. We'll be more than welcome to continue to pour into you guys. But that actually concludes this meeting. Like I said, I want to thank you guys. It's been great.
Everyone,
Thanks,
thanks, Christian.
Thank you.
All right, bye,
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You did a good job, Christian.